Couple of strokes with the block plane and that cleaned that right up. Good. All right. The reason I put it up on my bench is because I want to try and figure out how I'm going to do this shelf. Well, I think the first order of business is to get it cleaned up. And it's narrow enough to go through my planer. I don't think I want it to be as thick as the top. I want it to be maybe a little bit lighter. So at this point, it is just a little thinner right now. But a couple of passes through the planer, clean up the glue, get it flat, require less sanding. Okay, it cleaned up pretty nicely. I'm going to have to guess where these dominoes are. I forgot to transfer my marks to the side. So I'm going to have to take, what I'll do is I'll take a look at the video and see if I can kind of guess. I knew they were about 8 inches on the center. So if I start in the middle, and I did cut equal amounts off both ends, I can kind of figure out where I am. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and we'll get going on this. All right, I added my drops here so I could identify which side of the board I was looking at in the video. I had to go back and look. But I do have plenty of room here. I believe this is where my first domino is, and this is where the one is on this side. Still will take equal amounts from both ends. So what I'm going to do is, because this is tapered on both of these faces, I am going to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap around the board to kind of match this gap up that I have up here on the drawer fronts. So I'll kind of carry that over down to the shelf and have that same gap around the legs. And I think that'll kind of tie things together. The way that I will support, and it'll also allow for a movement of this board. The way I will support it on this is that I'm going to take this down, and I'm trying to see which way I could do this the easiest. My original thought was to drill the pegs into here, but that won't be the easiest. The easiest will be to do it this way where I have room. My kingdom for a right angle drill. Yeah. I'm going to have to do it this way. Okay, made both rips, both cross cuts, and I'm about 1/8 of an inch fat this way and maybe 3/16 this way. So what I'm going to do, before I did my rips and cross cuts, this was my reference edge. Everything is still square. So I'm going to take this edge and hand plane it and get a nice clean edge, and then continue to use this to make my cross cuts and then my final rip. And then I can hand plane this edge to get this looking nice as well. So I'm going to do that here next. I'm missing this part right out here. Now that I've got the shelf really close to size, I'll put it that way, I need to establish where this thing is going to sit. And this is what I've come up with for the top of the shelf. When I looked at the website for this piece, they have it at 6.5 inches from the floor to the bottom of the shelf. So I took my dimension and added 1/4 of an inch to that and established my line up here at 7.5. So what I need to do is measure the width of the leg at this point to see how big a square I need to wrap it. And at this point, I'm just under 1.1 inches. Just a fraction. So I'll set it up at just under 1.25 inches and cut that square in both directions. Alright, I got my sliding table set up with a stop on the end there, and the contact point is up here on top, which is good because when I flip this and there's no longer a piece here, I didn't want the contact point to be down here. So it's cocked a little bit in this direction, contact point being there. Then I've also got a stop mat to take the, to just touch the length of the board in the other direction, so that when I take and stand the board up, that's going to be my reference point to give me the square cut I need. So I'm going to make all 4 horizontal cuts, and then I'll make the verticals. Alright, now I purposely left the depth of cut just a little shy, and I can clean this up with a chisel. Had I gone too far, I could have overcut that, and I didn't want that to happen. So I'm going to clean these corners up, and then we'll see how it looks. Alright, this is not perfect, it's close, but just as I suspected here, I've got this set up on blocks, so I've got to hold it height-wise, but this leg has got to come out, which I knew. I was going to control that with the dowel. control that with the dowel as well. I think I'm very close to final dimension here as far as these cutouts go. The only way to truly know is to locate my dowels and then cut my opening underneath here. Alright, I got my table secured at that end with the top hanging over the edge. I was contemplating taking it off, but there's really no need to. So now this edge is straight. This edge is tapered. So I have to account for that taper to make sure that this dowel goes in perpendicular. So I've cut one of my cutoffs into a small wedge. I've got it so it just touches the end of the jig on this end. And I've got my tri-square set for this offset from the bottom. So that's how I'll register my jig. Right there. Okay. Now I've taken the time, I took the wedge out. I can do it again, I guess, to just confirm that I'm on the line, which I am. And then slide this back in till I just see it peak right there. And then this is where I'm going to drill my first hole. I've got my jig offset that way, 1/8 of an inch. I don't think it's going to be centered, but it's going to be on that side of the leg. Just eyeballing this. It's going to be close. Yeah, it's a little back, but that's okay. I can deal with that. All right, 1 down, 3 to go. Yeah. Now it's not set into the openings that I'm going to cut, but boy, oh boy, do I like that. Yes, I do. All right, I've got my marks here, and this is a depth of cut. I'm not going to go to the line. I'm going to stay short of it and clean it up with a chisel. So I've got my router set up to come into that line there. I've also taken the time to take my circle cutting jig, take the pin out of it and use it as an outrigger to give me that control I need, because only half of this fence is riding on the work. So I'm going to pull on this corner and the workpiece to keep it tight, and then come into this cut and then just make my cut just short of the line. So here we go. It's always these little things that give you the heart attacks. Make sure everything's locked down here. All right, here it goes. There's one. Success. I'm very happy about that. So Now I'm just going to mark this cut line. Okay, that's one. Now I'll do the others, but the way I've got this cut, I've got it cut so that the dowel is just buried. I could have gone deeper and lowered the shelf, but I want to try this first. I know it's going to sit up a little higher than originally planned, but I want to take a look at it before I get too carried away and cut the rest, or take this depth too far. I guess that's what I want to say. Here goes. All right, these two are in. That one's in. That one's in. Yeah. Boy, the reveals look good. Let me see how I ended up here for off the floor. 7 inches. I was going for 6 3/4. I ended up at 7. And that's a nice solution. I like that. The pins are hidden nicely in the reveals. Kind of locks everything together. Beautiful. Beautiful. There you have it. I think I might even stick with those dowels. You can barely see them anyway, so it's no big deal. You can pull them out and transport this thing. There's only one thing I'm left to do really, and that's just to sand it. I'm not gonna put any fancy molded edges on or anything like that, which you could do if you're building something that you wanted that. But all I'm going to do is just break the edges with 150 grit. And what you see is what you get. With the addition of some hardware, and truly you don't even have to do that. They're easy to open without any hardware. I like the clean look. There's the final piece. I've got everything sanded, ready for paint. One thing I will show you is I did end up doing these drawers. Might be hard to see in this light, but I did reinforce these joints with the dowels. Just because this is going to want to go that way if anything were to happen, and putting dowels in there prevents that. So I got it reinforced front and back. Well, thanks for watching.